We are officially 7 days out from TikTok being banned in the United States. And I have questions that no one seems to be answering. I'm fully qualified to ask them as a digital native, zillennial, whatever you want to call me. I'm the first generation who had social media in high school. We are wandering around the asylum I was raised in. This is my circus, these are my monkeys. Instagram came out in 2012, I was in year 9. We were using Snapchat before Gen Alpha were even a twinkle in their father's eye. Now, a few things I would love to know about this ban. What are we doing with the content, and where are the users going? There are 102.3 million TikTok users in the US, the most active country on TikTok. If you look at the magnitude of the content and we break that down into time, because all of this is an attention economy, that means we have years, if not decades. Someone can do the math in the comment section, and I'm sure rings me about it. It's totally fine. I'm blonde for a reason. We have a lot of content. We have a lot of attention economy that has circulated this platform that Americans have contributed to. What I would like to understand is, are the US accounts going to be suspended, deactivated? What's happening to them? Will users no longer be able to access their accounts, but we still have access to the content? I just don't understand how that's going to play out, because that is such a huge loss to the platform. So let's talk about the pros and cons. There are more cons than pros, many more. Let's talk about the meta of it all. I'm also coming across a lot of content on TikTok about this ban. I will be collecting that and I will put that into a public collections on my TikTok profile, which will be called TikTok Ban. From what I understand, not only is everyone horrified in the US, they are also coming up with plans of which platforms they're intending to migrate to, as well as some really compelling content on how social media can improve in this day and age. And it really does need to. Social media as we know it in the next 3 years, let alone 5, will be completely different. And that I will talk about on another day for another time. It's a whole deep dive. We'll talk about Web3, we'll talk about AI, we'll talk about augmented and virtual realities, and we'll talk about quantum computing and how those will all intersect. None of us have the attention spans for me to go into that right now. In terms of the users, that's a huge loss to TikTok's content library. The whole reason why their algorithm is so fantastic and so addictive is the fact that it's very intuitive on what its users would like to see next. What they've also really nailed that Meta couldn't have achieved even in their wildest dreams is it's as addictive to creators to post. You're compelled to keep posting because there's a very attainable chance a post will go viral. The fact that virality is not guaranteed means there's an inconsistent reward in posting. An inconsistent reward is the most addictive thing to the human brain. It's how they train dogs, and regrettably we're not immune. So in terms of the addictive nature, that hasn't been the case on Instagram since the mid-2010s. Unless you've got significant platform authority on Instagram, it is a lot harder to grow in the current social media climate. The thing with TikTok is it's not a social networking platform. Social networking has died. It's now social media, but they are an entertainment platform. They've always said they are an entertainment platform. Unlike needing to follow people to be seeing their content, you're getting that content delivered to you based on your explore page. You do not expect to see people you know on TikTok. It's quite the opposite. It's almost jarring if you see someone you know on TikTok. In terms of the interface itself, it's very simple to use. It's just one perpetual scroll, bring new content that you would want to see. So with all this content gone, I would love to know and understand what's going to happen there. If the content isn't removed and the accounts remain inaccessible to US users, it will be less drastic in the short term. It will be more drastic in the long term. Algorithms will still be impacted because these creators won't be participating anymore. So this is a huge hit to the platform and how we know it. It's been interesting watching TikTok evolve as a platform. My career started in marketing, very well acquainted with how the sausage is made on this platform. I hear a lot of confusion online about algorithms. Every social media platform has algorithms. TikTok just happens to have one that is very enticing and sticky, the most addictive one out of the bunch. Now, the pros and the cons. Cons being US creators lose access to their accounts. I have suspicions there will be ways around this. People know how to break rules, right? There will be VPNs and all kinds of tricks to gain access back to their accounts. There will be a little bit of that. For those who aren't crafty enough to find an illegal workaround, they will obviously lose the followings they've achieved and the way that they monetize the profiles that they've built. Given they have the largest number of active users, this will hit the rest of us. The quality of the content, the addictiveness of the algorithm will shift and change. We also won't be getting access to that sort of boots on the ground, really direct information. For a lot of people, it is their primary news source. It is a direct mode of communication for the people, by the people, which is ironically very American, and it's a shame that we're in the state of affairs that we're in. The pros for the rest of the world: with every social media platform, when it's new, it leaves room for new creators to gain platform authority. The way social media platforms typically evolve is that they're new, creators flood the space, they then gain platform authority. As the space becomes more crowded with content, it's harder and harder to cut through, go viral, build that following, build that platform authority in the place of the creators who have already carved out their own space. In the attention economy, which is limited, it's always scarce. Your time is a finite resource. Given that there will be more time for more content, because we're not going to have such an active user base on the platform, it does mean that creators in other countries will likely gain platform authority in place of the creators we've lost in the US. You will have an increased chance of going viral. You will be able to build a following in a slightly easier way. That's a slight pro. I have 0 pros for the US. Now, I have seen a lot of content on TikTok with creators talking about migrating to Snapchat, bizarrely. Blue Sky, I will be doing a separate deep dive on Blue Sky. I have predictions, I have views on the platform as a whole. Neptune, I know Clapper was suggested the first time the ban was being discussed, so I'm not sure whether that will be making a resurgence. If it's not US owned and the government knows about this now, which I'm sure they do, then I can't imagine that will take off. Now, the meta of it all. Here is where I become personally disgusted. As someone who enjoys swapping the Z for an F in Mark Zuckerberg's last name, I find this entire situation ridiculously hypocritical. From a man who has mined the data of virtually everyone on the planet, it is disgraceful that he is arguing that this is a threat to the country's security. And yes, he is directly involved. He has poured in multi-millions to the lobbying group that has pushed this bill forward. I do not feel more safe with Mark Zuckerberg having my data. This is not a solution. This is a band-aid on a very unfortunate hemorrhage. If you've watched The Social Dilemma or the Cambridge Analytica documentary on Netflix, then you know that there is no comfort to find in Meta having more of our eyeballs and more of our data once again. I've seen a lot of American creators insisting they won't be using Meta platforms. If TikTok gets banned, they insist. My favorite was, I would rather send memes in the post to each other than go back to Instagram and Facebook. While I would love for that to be true, I am a realist, and we are so addicted to the little casinos that we have in our pockets that I just don't believe that we are capable of this, unfortunately. As much as we'd like to refrain on principle alone, I just don't see this happening. We are so beyond obsessed with our device. And in such a dopaminergic feedback loop, anyone that's got any grasp on neurobiology knows there is no way we are going to collectively cold turkey wean ourselves off of the blue light. I can't see our supply being cut off and us managing to cope with it. We're all walking around with our adult pacifiers, and just because our favourite one's been taken away, I can't see us getting through the night without weeping and screaming. I do think there will be increased eyeballs on Meta, as unfortunate as that is. I do, however, see YouTube's numbers growing. YouTube's had a resurgence in the last year and a half, and I see that continuing. Ideally, if they're smart, they'll be proactive with the algorithm they have for shorts to lean more towards the way the TikTok algorithm works. Now, I'll be tracking this every day. I am fascinated to see this play out and what it means for us all. So follow along as we watch this unfold and we start to see which platform people are migrating to, what the ban will mean in terms of the US users' accounts on the platform, and I will be back with cheerier AI news soon.